What is going on, guys? Joey Frenzel here, Flex Training Systems, and today I am finally getting to some of the questions that you guys asked me. There's a lot of really useful stuff here. Um, I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I was just busy, and this weekend I am taking a little road trip up north to go handle at a meet. So I don't have time to stream it. So it's just me and the YouTube peeps. Anyway, super useful video. If you were able to take something away from this video by the end of it, please drop a like in the comments down below. We're 200 subs away from 10,000. What the heck? That's crazy. Anyway, let's get right into it. Things to consider on once per week frequency. So when I first read this question, I was like, what are they talking about? And then when I looked into it more, I was like, that's actually a pretty good question. If you're training a lift once per week, there are a couple things that you need to kind of understand more about it. First off, if you're training a lift once per week, it's probably because you can't really tolerate too much volume on it. It's usually going to be lower body. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have any lifters that only bench once a week. Zero. So things to consider, let's just say you're deadlifting once a week. You're probably still working those muscles in some capacity with a variation. So for example, if you're deadlifting once a week, you're probably training your legs and your glutes and your posterior chain, doing something else at least once more per week. I am not brushed up on the details of it for those of you that like science and things like that, but there is a reason for this. It has to do with when you stimulate muscle growth as a drug-free lifter, there's going to be an initial response that sort of tells your body, hey, we need to build new muscle, and it's going to last for X amount of time, and it just works out to twice a week is going to be better. It's going to provide better growth opportunities than to just hitting it once per week. And perhaps taking a supplement that would give you that same effect or similar effect or stronger effect, so that you wouldn't have to train it as frequently, right? So some things to consider would be that your training sessions will probably be more predictable, assuming that there isn't too much interference with other lifts. It may or may not, depending on what you're doing. For example, if your conventional deadlift doesn't affect your low bar squat, then you're just one of those people that they don't really interfere, then that's something to keep in mind. I'm sure they interfere a little bit, but maybe not as much as others. Whereas if you pull a sumo and a frog stance, maybe that really taxes your squat, and that's really going to affect it, or vice versa. So you're going to have more predictable training sessions. You generally should have your lift should be closer to your peak strength relative to someone that's really accumulating volume and training a lift very, very frequently. It's so hard to give you a concrete on this because every time I give you an example, I'm like, well, what about this person? Like, I have a lifter that's like the opposite. So these are just very general things to consider. Another thing to consider in once per week frequency is you probably could add another day. Right? So look to add another day, especially if it's a squat or a bench. If you're a very big, strong lifter, or you just don't have the best recovery, then you want to look at your lower body lifts and maybe some upper body as training. You're training upper and lower X amount of times per week. It just so happens to be in the comp lift as opposed to training the deadlift. Like, some people will be like, oh, well, I train deadlift Monday. The only time I train deadlift is Monday. And they just completely ignore that squats affect deads. You know what I mean? So just got to keep that in mind. But yeah, I hope that was mildly useful. Deadlift frequency for new clients, once per week is really solid. Start with one. There's no need to go to two until they show you that they need two. Or if they're coming to you, if they're coming to you having previously deadlifted more than once a week, they're probably not a new client, right? Mental game going into Worlds. My mindset going into Worlds is this might be our last Worlds, so I hope it's our best. I just want to go all out. I feel like my preparation up to this point has been like I feel the most prepared as a coach than I've ever been. Um, Everything is basically done. I just need to book my flight, and I'm just waiting to hear the okay from the Fed that it's okay to book the flight. That's it. I'm not really. There's a lot less drama going into Worlds than there is going into Nationals. I'll tell you that, and it makes dealing with Worlds a lot easier. You know, just show up and lift, and if some amazing lifter from another country comes in, and we gave it our very best, then hey, we got to shake hands after, right? Um, but I'm feeling pretty confident. Programming, uh, I put this here not to really answer a question, but a lot of you guys ask me questions about programming. And I just wanted to bring this up. You can let me know in the comments below what you think. I've been really thinking of doing some sort of additional content that involves me strictly talking about programming, just like how to set it up, how to progress it, how to taper to meets, all that stuff. But it would not be free. Absolutely not, because that stuff is extremely valuable, and I have touched on it here and there. So I'm just, but I can't like, you know, I can't charge for something if there's not demand for. So I don't really know how I would do it. I don't know if I would start a Patreon. I don't know if I would do a private stream and bring like 20 of you in there, and we would just get into it. You know what I mean? If you would find that valuable, or if that is something that you're interested in learning, um, you know, it would, like I said, it would be behind paid content. Then let me know, and I'll look into it. I have no plans at the moment. It's a very early stages. So just let me know what you think. Because it's like the most common thing you guys ask for, but I'm just not gonna go super into detail with that stuff like on here, aside from what I've already done. For those of you that have been to my live streams, I did one before where I programmed live, but I didn't save the VOD. It was kind of like, hey, if you're here now in this moment, you know, you're gonna get some good content. Otherwise, I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna go away. So, all right, and I might do that again. Just to kind of get an idea for demand. Anyway, moving on. Frog stance sumo. Yes, I think frog stance sumo is not for everyone. I think if you see a lifter that's really good at a frog stance sumo, it's probably because they've tried super wide, they've tried conventional, and they find the frog stance is a nice balance for them. I think those lifters are usually very good at getting their femurs and hips in an advantageous position to lift a lot of weight while still utilizing a good portion of their muscularity. And that's why I think that the frog stance can be very, very powerful if you are built for it, but it's not something that everybody's going to be able to do. Yeah, that's that. You really got to watch like your hands, like rubbing on your legs and things like that. If your hands can lock out before your nails start to dig into your thighs, you're probably going to be really good at it. Midday scorecard watching. Ah, yes. Okay, so when it comes to this, for me personally, I don't really pay attention to what the other person is doing until we get to deadlifts. I might keep an eye on them just to like prepare myself for it, but I don't really care that much because it's up to them to hit 6 lifts before we get to deadlifts, and I might just be paying attention to them for no reason because they're just gonna screw up, or I don't know, a lot of different things. But when we get to deadlifts, you know, like when we're warming up deadlifts, I'm looking at the score. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm doing the math. I'm making predictions. I'm getting scorecards ready. I'm looking at possible scenarios. But I'm doing that on deadlift because that's really the only time where you can solidify things. And to be honest, if I'm the bigger deadlifter, it doesn't even really matter because I'm going to know what I need to win. You know, if my lifter is a stronger deadlifter, I'm going to know what I need to win. So I'll just deal with it then. You know what I mean? So that's how I kind of like to do it, and it keeps like it keeps my stress low, so I'm not like you guys know I hate overthinking, so I do everything I can to not overthink and just execute when the time comes. And the time for that is going to be their deadlift time. Okay. Powerlifting versus bodybuilding macros. I'm going to need to take a sip of this for that. So, generally, depending on what you're trying to achieve, they like if I'm talking a general population, bodybuilders will probably be on lower macros because they care about their aesthetics than a powerlifter who's going to be willing to give up some of those aesthetics for a little bit more body fat to be stronger because that's going to increase their leverage. You know, weight moves weight. They're probably going to be more durable. There's just a lot of benefits that come with being bigger, right? So, in general, you know, bodybuilders might have to eat less. That is not always the case because there are definitely people that look incredible as powerlifters. They literally look like bodybuilders, but they are powerlifters. It really depends on the person. It depends on your situation. It depends on where your like maintenance body fat set point is, if you wanna think of it that way. Um, but in general, like the way I like to look at it is like you're still setting up your macros very similar. Uh, you know, a bodybuilder in the off season might have similar macros to a power lifter that's bulking as well. Powerlifting and bodybuilding are a lot more closely related than people think. A lot of the things that bodybuilders do, I think powerlifters should do, and a lot of the things that powerlifters do, I think bodybuilders can benefit from. So I would say it's almost, it's literally like the same thing. Like it's just very, it just depends on what you're doing. But you could say the same thing for a powerlifter. You know, a powerlifter that's preparing for a weight class may eat similar to a bodybuilder preparing, you know, for whatever they're preparing for. Now, bodybuilders may have to go way deeper, and they're going to sacrifice performance to get stage lean, whereas a powerlifter is going to prioritize performance, right? Grip training. I think this is on my last Q&A, but the number one thing I like to do for grip training, there's two things. One is just hold the bar. Just literally hold it in your comp grip, lock it in there, do long holds with it once or twice a week. And then two, just bodybuilding movements like rows, but use your hands and really grip the bar tight. You know, I've done this and it's made my hands sore, similar to how like doing deadlifts. Like if I don't deadlift for a while, which you guys know me, I barely deadlift, and then I deadlift, my hands will get sore in a similar fashion. But really, the main thing, if I had to pick one, is just going to be grip. Just hold the bar, and doesn't even need to be really heavy. It could be 50, 60, 70% of your max, and it's going to carry over to your big lifts. Um, programming for athletes that aren't gifted. Honestly, the principles are the same, but the thing that comes to mind when I read this is going to be just like injury prevention. Like they're gonna break more often, perhaps, just for the sake of conversation. So you just need to be really tentative and make sure that you build a huge base with the foundational movements and have a lot of bodybuilding in there to kind of build up their weaknesses. So that way you can keep them safe and then start to train them like a little bit more of a traditional gifted athlete or something. Gifted, to me, it just really comes to like the durability, because you can be, if I have two people that have equal durability, I'm going to train them very similar. You know what I mean? If I have a lifter that has a very, 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 very good lift on a world class level, and they are lagging in another lift, I might chill on the volume on the lift that's already so far ahead and really work on the other lift. It just depends. Or I might say, hey, your lagging deadlift is because your leverages are not good for it, but you have an amazing squat, and we can continue to push that squat incredibly high. You know what I mean? Then I might do that. It just depends. But working with this person over time is going to dictate and you know, present to me the path forward that would lead to success. Mental health in the Olympics. A lot of people ask about this. I don't want to get too crazy on it, but I just want to say there's a couple different trains of thought, and I don't have all the specifics, so I can't really say like what the right thing is to do. At the end of the day, athletes are humans, and humans have emotions and they feel things, and we don't really know what they're going through, um, and it can be very serious. But I think, you know, one way to look at it is like if you're at the Olympics, you're doing it for your country, you're doing it for your team, you're doing it for history, you're doing it for legacy. Whatever happens to you, you know, like I don't know if you guys have. I could think of numerous times when an Olympic athlete has a torn ligament, a torn muscle, a torn something. They might be going through all kinds of self-doubt, but they just do it. They just do it. It doesn't matter. Put your body on the line. You're doing it for your country. You're doing it like just bigger than yourself. You don't care what happens to you. And you can ask some of those athletes, they're willing to die. They are willing to die for it. They are willing to die. They truly are willing to die for it, right? Not everybody's like that. And the other side of it, you have like, if you're mentally not ready to perform, then you're doing the right thing by removing yourself from that situation. Um, I will never forget. I was in high school. I was in high school football. I was playing outside linebacker, and I remember I was a junior, and we had to sub out our starting middle senior linebacker for some reason for a different senior middle linebacker, and we were getting beat. Like we were going against a team, and they ran a very strange, a very physical offense. It was mainly just the run game, and they kept rotating a lineman like every other play. It's a stupid thing that you would only do in high school, right? But high school kids aren't very developmentally oftentimes. And I remember the senior middle linebacker having a nervous breakdown. We're probably close to our goal line. Our goal line, meaning we're on, obviously like we're on defense. He had a nervous breakdown. He freaked out. It was super embarrassing. He just like couldn't take the pressure. He couldn't handle it, and it ended up fucking us a few plays. And if he would have recognized that he wasn't ready before that, we probably could have got somebody else in there. So obviously that's not the Olympics, but in that moment, it's a very real thing. It's a very it feels, you feel the weight and the gravity of responsibility. Being middle linebacker, you're calling the defense. The pressure's on you. So this guy obviously wasn't ready for it, and ended up hurting the team. So I think if you can identify that ahead of time and remove yourself from the situation, it's probably a good thing. It's two very different ways to look at it. You have two extremes. I think if you got to the Olympics, you're probably pretty fucking strong mentally, in my opinion. That's what I think. Because you had to beat a lot of motherfuckers to get there. You had to beat a lot of people to get there. That's not an easy thing. That's the hardest thing in the world to do. It is the hardest thing in the world to do. Aside from being like a cop or a firefighter, or, doing some crazy shit like that. So, or army person, military. Anyway, rest periods. So for me personally, on bench, I probably rest about 5 to 7 minutes between sets. You want to rest long enough to recover from a cardio aspect, but have enough energy to like perform near the strength that you have on the day. It doesn't do any good for a powerlifter to like rest 30 seconds and do another set of bench because they're not fully recovered and they're training different systems at that point, right? You're probably going to get some hypertrophy, but it's just different. For squat, I mean, I'll wait like 15, 18 minutes. Don't do that. Don't do 18. But I do what I got to do. I try to do at least 12 minutes between my big singles, at least 10. Make sure I'm fully rested. I've always done that, and it's worked out well for me. But, everybody's different. And, with accessories, I don't rest a lot, maybe a minute, 2 minutes. Again, the point of rest period is to let your body recover from like a cardio standpoint, like a metabolic standpoint, so that you can perform the lift with the strength that you have on the day, not being hindered by your heart rate or anything like that. Stress coming into lifts. This one's interesting. Like, let's say you have a big squat day and it really freaks you out. I think that's something that you just got to build up over time. Luckily we can do it in a controlled environment. You dictate the weight that's on the bar, and I think by getting stronger and like using RPE and seeing like, oh wow, like my RPE for today actually feels like RPE 6. Like I underestimated myself. I feel like I can lift, I can go higher. And then you start to like disassociate that connection with a weight and how it's supposed to feel, and like level up. You're going to associate a higher weight with how it's supposed to feel. So I think it can really be a good thing. It just over time, just like really preparing yourself right, so that way when you get to meet day and you are going to attempt a lift you've never tried before, you know that you've prepared yourself so well that any doubts that you have about what you're capable of, it just leaves you, right? Coach lifter relationship. I believe that if a coach and a lifter trust each other, on an intangible yet tangible level. What are you fucking talking about, Joey? When the trust is there, and then over time they can kind of build a common, um, like they both know what they're looking for. They both know what they're trying to achieve through training, and they're relatable with each other, and they just like that trust is really there, and they genuinely like want to help the other person. Like, man, you could really achieve some amazing shit. And not it, you know, like I try my best to let my lifters know I really care about them and I'm trying. And if I don't, then you know, it kind of feels bad because you're not gonna be able to vibe with everyone. Um, but you know, I'll be damned if I don't try to at least let them know they can trust me. And I literally lose sleep if someone's not happy with what I try to get them to do. Assuming they're trying to, and usually if both sides are trying, and both sides are giving it 100%, and the lifter buys into what the coach has them doing, then you're generally like 99% of the time gonna be successful. Which means 1 out of 100, you're not gonna be able to, you know, if you really know what you're doing, 1 out of 100. I mean, you're probably not gonna be able to help them. So it is what it is. But that's why there's different coaches, right? That's why everybody has a chance. Taper coming into comps. Okay, so generally when I like to taper people, or when I like to look at training, it's about applying stress, building that stress up, and then removing stress. Kind of like this, right? It's like apply, remove, apply, remove, apply a lot, remove a lot, apply a lot, remove a lot, right? You could do it a lot of different ways, but generally when you're tapering into a meet, you need to taper down from somewhere. Meaning you need to have been doing more. I would say 2 weeks out to, I don't know, 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, somewhere in there, right? You're gonna take that point wherever you're at, and then you're gonna start to remove and take things out the closer you get to competition. Not too fast, but not too slow either, right? That's the tricky part. So that you can come into a competition and be as strong as you possibly can be. And this may change over time. And for those of you that like need everything perfect, it like you could get it damn close the first time, but to get it like perfect, to get that Russ Swole 2021 Raw Nationals taper peak squat, like I exceeding my expectation squat, that's gonna take time. That takes years to perfect. You might get it. You might get lucky and get it right the first time, but I think in time it should get better and better and better. And then you can eventually get to a point where you can predict how you're gonna peak, and then you just have like really, really, really solid competitions. So I hope you guys were able to at least take one thing away from that. Sorry, I started out a little shaky on this first one. It was kind of like I just free ball this, guys. I just off the top of the dome. I didn't even look at it. I just like wrote it, and I was like, all right, I'll do it tomorrow. Boom, and then got on here. But anyway, 200 subs away from 10,000. What should I do at 10,000? What should we do at 10,000? It really, it's really cool to see that we're almost there. Talk to me in the comments below. I asked you guys questions about teaching you guys about programming. Who would be interested in that? You know, and then let me know, what are we doing at 10,000? What do you guys want to do? What do you guys want to do? So, busy weekend coming up. August is going to be chill, and then September is the gauntlet. September is the gauntlet, and then December we got some more stuff. So it's going to be real busy. I'm excited. Powerlifting is no longer, it's like not on and off season anymore. It's just we're going. See you around. We always got something coming up. So it's fun. Let's do it. Let's get out there. Let's make them gains, get your recovery, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.